What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy and I'm coming at you with another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hot Toys Anakin Skywalker from the Clone Wars. Major shout out and major props to my very, very good friend. You've seen him on the channel many times. 212th Hunter. Hunter gifted this figure to me as he no longer wanted it for his collection at ICCCon 2025. I'm very, very thankful to Hunter for giving me this figure, and I'm finally getting around, many months later, to recording a proper review for it. This is a bit of an older Hot Toy. It came out a few years ago. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago at this point, but it does represent Anakin's look from the Clone Wars movie, as well as the earlier seasons of the Clone Wars show. Taking a look at our packaging on this figure, this is the standard style of packaging for Star Wars Hot Toys. You have a black backdrop here with a glam shot of the figure from about the waist up in a nice action pose. On the top left here, you can see this one's a little special because this is the Sideshow exclusive version. Sideshow being the online retailer here in the United States that distributes Hot Toys. I really enjoy their service for most of my Hot Toys orders and pre-orders, so this has a couple extra bonuses as opposed to the regular version. Below that, you have a chrome Star Wars logo, and then there is a little banner that is wrapped around the lid of the box. Down here, you have another glam shot of the figure with the Star Wars logo, the TMS number being 019, the name of the figure, and then over here on the bottom right, you have the Hot Toys logo. On this side of the box, you'll see that the glam shot kind of slightly wraps around to the side here. Nothing of note here except for the same information with the TMS number and the name of the character, and then on this side here, you have that banner that shows you a much bigger glam shot of the figure from about the knees up. This is a great looking piece right here. On the back of the box, it's nothing really to look at. Once again, we just have all your legal information, the warnings, things that we collectors don't really care all that much about. On the bottom of the box, we have a Star Wars logo, and then on the top of the box, what do you know? Another Star Wars logo. So now that we've taken a look at the box, let's get the lid off this thing and check out the contents. Removing the lid from the box, as with most Star Wars Hot Toys, we are then left with this really cool insert here. This one is really nice. I really like the almost like Mustafar lava that we have going on here, a foreshadowing to Anakin's fate at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Really like this artwork, and honestly, I say it almost every time I open up a Hot Toys figure, I really need to get these in an album or framed or something because these art pieces look amazing. No tape or glue required to remove the insert, and we are left with the contents of the box. I'm going to get this figure unboxed so we can take a look at Anakin first. Alright guys, here's Anakin out of the box. Let's take a closer look so we can check out a lot of that detail. So now that we have Anakin up close and personal, let's take a look at all that detail. So first and foremost, I want to say, this being an older Hot Toy, you're going to notice some things that we would consider dated here in 2025 for Hot Toys, but this was really the state of the art for the time this came out. I kind of want to start with the likeness here. This doesn't exactly look like Hayden Christensen to me, but it does look like Anakin Skywalker, if that makes any sense at all. The hair is very shiny, and while it's sculpted very nicely, I don't know, something about it makes it look a little too shiny to me. It reminds me of some older Luke Skywalker figures where, you know, in the imports they have that really shiny hairdo, and I don't know, I think it looks really nice, but I think honestly a dark wash could do it a lot of justice. Now, even though I don't think this looks entirely like Hayden Christensen, I do think that the detail on the face is very nice. He has his signature scar here, and the gloss on the eyes looks really nice too. You'll notice that the neck is sculpted with the head here, so no, we're not going to unfortunately have rolling eyeballs, which we've become very accustomed to in the newer Hot Toys game. This armor set is very interesting on this Anakin figure, and same with the shoulder armor. So they actually give you, and I'll get more into this with the accessories portion of this review, they do give you 2 different looks for not only the chest armor, but also the shoulder armor. So to my knowledge, this armor set is based off of the Anakin Clone Wars appearance from the 2017 Battlefront 2 EA title. So using that as reference, which I think is a fair reference to use, as it's the only time at the point this figure came out that we saw that look for Anakin Anakin, I think that's a fair use there. So it's got some nice ridges here, it's got a nice sandblasted weathering effect, and obviously that does travel all the way to the back of the figure. I will get into this cape in a minute here. This is a really nice cape, by the way. Then you do have the shoulder armor here with that same consistent sandblasted look, and again you have that nice kind of raised Jedi insignia in that nice brick color on his left shoulder. As for Anakin's garments underneath that, we do have this cape here. Now I will pull the head off so I can show you how this works. This cape is removable, so I believe this is a Velcro system. Yep, you'll see a Velcro patch on the front of Anakin's tunic, and there's 2 more Velcro patches on the back here. This is how you connect the cape or disconnect the cape from the chest armor here. So I will attach the chest armor back to the figure for now so that we can check out the rest of the figure itself. However, as far as the cape goes, it is a really nice thick material. I really wish that it was wired. However, it seems to have some natural folds in it so that it drapes very nicely in a standing position. Anakin, obviously having his Clone Wars look, he's going to have those maroon underrobes there, and the outer tunic is going to be that nice navy blue there. So you have at the left hand here a sculpted glove, and I like how they did this glove. It's just a big plastic piece that covers the forearm that's separate from the actual gloved hand, and the same can be said for Anakin's cybernetic arm. You'll see this one's a lot looser, but it still gets the job done. It'll ride where it needs to naturally cover the glove there. Anakin's belt is very, very nicely detailed. It's done in some, I believe this is pleather. There is a Velcro strap on the back, so you could technically take this off if you wanted to, not that I plan on doing that. There are some facets that are glued on here, and then you can see he has all of his little pouches. I love these Jedi cylinders from the prequel trilogy, and I don't know what it is about them. It's just such an iconic detail. And then you have the little clip here, and you also have a clip for his lightsaber hilt there. Very nicely detailed. We get down to the bottoms of the tunics. Now, while the cape isn't wired, which is a bummer, they do have some very thin wires in this piece of the tunic here, so you can get this to move, and as you can see, I'm not really putting much effort into it. You can get a very nice windswept effect with this robe, and we're definitely going to be utilizing this in posing. You can see that it's stitched all along the outer edges, even along the backside of this tunic here, and it works really well. Now, while this under tunic doesn't seem to have any wires in it, you can use it to kind of fold underneath the outer tunic here and give an even more windswept look, which I really like. As for Anakin's pants, these are a very plain maroon pant style, and I really like the way that these look. It's again, it doesn't need to be too much. It's coming from animation. They have a lot of creative liberty with how they handle things like that. And then you have these boots. Now, these boots look amazing. So I'm interested to see. So these are honestly, now that I'm looking at them, a lot like the Darth Maul boots. If you have the newer Darth Maul and the Sith Speeder, which I do have a review out for, the boots are all one piece, so that can be kind of annoying, but I think that honestly these have a little bit more give and a little bit better ankle articulation than Darth Maul's boots do. They have a very nice leather look to them, and I really like the detail here. You can even see like fake creasing by the toes of the boots here, giving a nice idea that these are battle worn. And you can see the tread of the boots is also sculpted, no weathering on the bottom of the feet or anything like that, and you can see this is a 2021 release. Hot Toys, man, I didn't think they could come such a long way in 4 years, but here we are. They've made leaps and bounds in quality from the already masterful looking figure that this is. So overall, as with many of the animation to live action designs that I have in my Hot Toys collection, I think this is another great addition to the ranks with those. This does a good job of marrying the animated design, staying faithful to it, while also using some live action reference like the Battlefront game to bring us a cool looking design. Now to cover Anakin's articulation. So he is going to, like I said, unlike the barbell jointed neck we're used to on newer Hot Toys, just a ball joint at the base of the neck, and that does get you some decent range still. He can look down a fair amount, he can look up a little bit, but then you can start to feel that kind of pop out of the joint there. You can get some decent tilt out of it, as well as some right and some left. The shoulders do have a butterfly joint, and I will say the clothing underneath does a really good job of not hindering that shoulder movement. That's what we want to see, especially with a Jedi character, any lightsaber wielding character, especially as acrobatic as Anakin tends to be. We want as much movement and freedom of motion as possible. So he does also have a hinge and swivel at that shoulder. You can see he can get up right up to that 90-degree mark, which is great. And the shoulders can technically swivel a full 360 degrees. However, this is where you can't get get that full range of motion due to the limitations of the stitched clothes. However, if you were to remove all the Jedi robes off this guy, he would be able to get that full 360-degree swivel. You do also have a bicep swivel that is built into the arm there, and then in the action figure world, we call these pinless double jointed elbows. You'll see those can get some very, very nice range, and they honestly rival that of the human anatomy. That's what we want to see. And then of course the Hot Toys trademark at the wrists here, you're going to have those wrist pegs which offer a hinge and swivel, so whatever way you swivel the wrist is the way that the hinge will work, and this is a really ingenious system. Both of the hands work this way. Anakin does have a ball joint at the, feels like the midsection here, which does offer a lot of range for how much layering and even some padding I feel inside the torso of the figure. You can get some decent range out of that. Bringing up all of the outer tunic here, you can see that there's also a ball joint at the hips, and again, I like that the pants are stitched in a way so that it doesn't hinder the articulation here. You can get plenty of motion out of that. There is a thigh swivel in there as well, and then of course again in the action figure world we'd call this a pinless double jointed knee. It is ratcheted to help him stand under his own weight. You'll see you can get plenty of range out of that, way more than the 90-degree mark, which is awesome. And then of course at the ankles here, it feels like we have some sort of barbell joint, which is pretty typical with Hot Toys. So you're gonna have one ball joint that kind of goes up into the lower leg, and then one that goes down into the ankle. You can see you can get plenty of motion out of that. Some really nice forward, decent back, some good in and out, and just some good circular motion. So overall, especially for being from a few years ago now, this Anakin Hot Toy offers some really, really nice articulation and some great range of motion. All right, guys, let's start to cover some of the accessories that Anakin's going to come with. So as most Hot Toys do, this is going to come with several swappable hand options. Now, my copy here, this being a used figure, I don't know if this is how this came out of the box, but in the right hand, you can see he has a C gripping hand for holding a lightsaber hilt, and then an open idle hand in that left hand there. Anakin's also going to come with some loose gripping hands for the left and right hand options. These are not technically identical, and they can be used as force gesture hands as well, especially like a force choke. I could definitely see that kind of a motion. However, the sculpting on these is all pretty identical. Everything looks very, very nice. For the left hand, Anakin will also feature a lightsaber gripping hand, a C gripping hand, so that if you want him to be left-handed, you can. And he does also feature for the right hand, this is a nice force gesture or command presence hand. You can have this be some sort of tactical gesture or some sort of force gesture. Swapping hands on these figures can be very easy. All you do is gently pull on the hand that you want to remove here. I do caution you, if you have a figure that has any sort of gauntlet piece, just keep that pulled back towards the elbow, because if you're trying to put a new hand on, it can be very, very frustrating to do so. But your new hand should slip on, no problem, and then there you go. Now it's ready for action, ready for some additional posing. Just going through the same tray of items that the hands came in, because I kind of work my way top to bottom in these boxes here. Anakin does come with a couple interesting choices. I'm not sure how relevant these are to this character. He does come with a thermal detonator. You've seen this several times throughout the Hot Toys Star Wars line. It's got a nice red indicator painted in a bright color there. Just some basic panel lining and metallic weathering for it too. It's a great accessory, and if you have a lot of Star Wars Hot Toys, it's a great one to have multiple of. Similarly, you also get the, I call it the landmine version of the thermal detonator here. It's just the top half of a thermal detonator. You can see some unique panel lining there, and other than that, it is exactly the same as the previous one I showed you. So of course, you get Anakin's Jedi communicator. I think the Jedi communicator is a very nice accessory here. It's got some nice, almost like brass paint here. It's got some nice paint application and painted detail on the bottom here, and you will see there is a peg hole on the top, quote unquote, top of it here. And there are three, count them, three versions of holograms you can put with this guy. The first one being Anakin's partner in crime, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This looks like the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan Kenobi because he has the shorter hair, and I think it's very nice. I like the striations they include, and that light blue hue really catches the light very nicely. All the holograms fit very snugly into the Jedi communicator, and then you can actually have Anakin hold these. Anakin also comes with one for Ahsoka. This looks like an older version of Ahsoka. Her montrals and her leku look much longer than we see in the earlier seasons of the Clone Wars, and actually looking at her costume, the very few details I can see, I think this is the season 7 Ahsoka right here. And then you also get Master Yoda, which is great. I love this look for Yoda. I can tell he's having a good time. He looks like he's smiling on the bare minimum detail on the sculpt here, but a great option nonetheless. Now, a really cool accessory that we we only see a couple times in the first season of the Clone Wars show is this poncho here. I love the kind of sandblasted detail on the very, very subtle striping on the bottom here. That translates over to the back. It's got some nice striping on the top here as well. This is the front of it. You can tell by the way the collar sits. This is the front side here, and then the shorter side is the back of the poncho. Such a cool scene-specific accessory for this figure, and really helps this feel like a definitive release. This also does have some wiring. Again, this makes me kind of roll my eyes even more. Why couldn't we have gotten some basic wiring on the cape? But it is what it is. This is still a really cool inclusion. Now, as I mentioned before, Anakin does have an alternate set of armor here. So this is the chest armor for that alternate set here. This is a lot more familiar of what you would see in the Clone Wars show, and actually, this looks a lot more like what we see in the 2003 Clone Wars animated show, which I think I'm going to use as my inspiration for my final pose. I already have a final pose for the shelf in my mind's eye on this guy, which is crazy, but this does have a little bit of articulation to it, where the one he has on from Battlefront does not, and I really like that. This is the same as the Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Wars release that they did very recently, and it's got that same very, very nice weathering, a slightly different color as well than the Battlefront colored one, but I really like this piece. It also has the same Velcro pieces on the front and the back, so you'll be able to attach that cape if you would like, and you can also attach it to that torso. Along with that chest armor come a separate set of shoulder armor pieces. Now, these are much larger than the ones you get on the Battlefront look, and this is, again, much more accurate to what we see in the animation here. This is an embossed kind of design here for this Jedi insignia in that same brick color, but it's a different design, very large, and I'm actually really intrigued to know how they came to the conclusion to do two sets of armor for this guy. I think it's really cool, but honestly, is it necessary? But that's how Hot Toys rolls. They like to give you all those unnecessary accessories to really make every release feel very definitive. Of course, if we have Anakin Skywalker, we need Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. So here is the lightsaber here. You'll see that the blade is a very pale blue. That's because they're encouraging you to use the light up feature. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't plan on using that light up feature, so they can just have to deal with it. But this is the Graflex lightsaber here. Very nice detail, some very bright reds on here, which I like, as well as some gold and some black on that silver hilt. It looks metallic, it gives off a great realistic effect, and obviously you can remove this lightsaber blade from it if you wanted to. You could put this on Anakin's belt. Anakin also comes with a swooshing blade for the lightsaber. You can kind of see where the leading edge is on this, and you can plug that into the hilt as well, and you kind of have a nice effect there for a swooshing effect. Now, as I kind of alluded to before, they do have a light up option for the lightsaber, and on these older Hot Toys, the way they used to do it is you would have to remove the entire forearm of the figure and replace it with this one here that has a little place for some button cell batteries there. And it does have the really nice paint apps with the lightsaber and the hand that are just a part of this whole contraption. However, this can prove to be very cumbersome. It does have its own double jointed elbow here, pinless, as you can see, technically pinless, and it does have full articulation at the wrist as well, just can't hinge up and down, but it does have swivel. It's just cumbersome. It's just not for me, and I think I'd just rather have the version that's not a light up feature. Anakin does of course come with a display stand, and this one is the pretty standard display stand for most of your Star Wars Hot Toys, being the Venator / Imperial Star Destroyer flooring look. No real weathering or anything on this whatsoever. Completely fine by me. I don't need it to have any weathering at all. You do have the nice chrome plaque on the front with the Star Wars logo and the character's name. Other than that, no real detail to this. Then of course he does come with the crotch grabber style of stand, so this has a wire piece which can be adjusted up and down, can come out completely and put back in, and it does have the two hooks that go up underneath the crotch of the figure, hence the name crotch grabber stand. This does connect here, and you'll kind of hear it pop into place when it's fully secured, and once it's in there, it is ready for display with your figure. And just a couple utilitarian accessories for this guy. They do actually give you 3 button cell batteries, so you can actually not have to go out of your way to buy them separately for the figure, and I think that's a great inclusion, again, encouraging you to use that light up feature for that saber. And then they do also offer you not only a pair of swappable wrist pegs, like most Hot Toys do, but also some smaller bits that you might need replaced as well. I think it's great and very consumer friendly that Hot Toys does this, as I have had experiences where I've had wrist pegs snap while I'm posing figures, and having a readily available supply of spares is very consumer friendly, especially for such an expensive premium figure line. Alright, so we've checked Anakin out, we've checked out all the accessories he comes with, so let's get him posed up a few ways. First, I want to get that lightsaber in hand. Something I'm noticing here with this robotic gloved hand is that it seems to have a connection point here. I wondered why it was so loose on the figure. I just assumed it was because it was used, but it looks like there is an actual way to connect this and snap it into place. Thankfully, this piece is very malleable and easy to remove, and if you just kind of crunch down the side with the buckles on it, it does just kind of lay in itself very nicely. So you can get this back onto the figure. Honestly, what I would recommend doing is just removing the hand from the arm and then sliding that bracer for that robotic hand on, and then putting your hand back on. Advice that I will always give 10 times out of 10 when posing Hot Toys is to remove the hand from the body when you are putting an accessory in the hand. I have seen so many people and heard so many horror stories of people breaking their figures because they're trying to pose the figure up with the accessory, putting it just onto the figure like they would a regular action figure. So just save yourself the trouble, save yourself the stress, and just do it this way. Here's a nice first pose for Anakin here. Just a nice little, very imposing looking pose. He's ready to challenge somebody to a lightsaber duel, and I like how those wired pieces on those lower tunics really work themselves in nicely. You can really get this figure into some nice low poses here. I've got him into a nice wide stance here. He's got a great center of gravity. Those ratcheted knees really help him stand up in those more dynamic poses. Here's a nice two-handed lightsaber holding pose. This guy really has a lot of fun posability to him. Very natural. I really want to get that other armor set on next. Here's Anakin in a really nice one-legged action pose. I'm assuming he's mid-duel with the likes of Dooku or Ventress, and this is a really nice look, especially with that Clone Wars armor. I really think I prefer that look over the Battlefront look. And here's Anakin next to the Hot Toys Obi-Wan Kenobi figure, and I did have these poses inspired by a certain shot from the 2003 Clone Wars animated show. I really love that show. That's why they both have the capes. I thought that would be a really fun inclusion for these guys. I do have a review for Obi-Wan Kenobi out on the channel if you want to check that out. But with that, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this review. This is a really fun figure, and he is a pretty faithful adaptation to the Clone Wars look. Obviously, there is a newer version of this figure that has recently been released from the Ahsoka series flashback scenes from those Clone Wars looks with the actual Hayden Christensen likeness. However, I think this is a great alternative, and considering I don't think this figure is going for very much on the aftermarket, he might be a good pickup. Thank you again to 212 Hunter for giving me this figure from your personal collection. This means a lot, and I hope in this review I've done it some justice. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could do so by checking out the YouTube channel membership Rancor Battalion for just 99 cents a month. You get exclusive badges and priority replies in my comment sections, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel, as well as getting my reviews early. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking all units, fire at will. 1-2, pick a target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's the reinforcements?